always fascinated by some of those big tickets that you see. And I know that they posted one here at the South Point, a huge bet that came in on the Dolphins, and it was 17-0, and I thought, that's going to be a loser. And then it wasn't a loser. I mean, you sweated it out, but all of a sudden that thing just flipped on a dime. Ben, tell us some of those other ones that you saw out there that were really big and certainly some sweats either way.
Yeah, and to your point, the NFL almost now is becoming a little bit more like the NBA, right, in terms of in-game opportunity.
Wow.
And these games that just, we saw, I think myself, like everyone, probably saw the Bills up 17-0. You say that's a little different with Skylar Thompson as a backup than that Jaguars Chargers game,
wow.
right? Where the first half is just like there's maybe no chance until I think, as Amal said, they get that touchdown before half, a little momentum. But that kind of looked like the Chargers probably have it. So we'll start with that game. That was certainly the biggest. This was caused a little bit of controversy, I would say, on gambling Twitter. A bettor at DraftKings, a $1.4 million bet.
Oh, boy.
This was, as you would expect, on the Chargers money line, up 27-0. I think it was at minus 12,500. So you would need $12,500 to win 100. Bet would win $11,200. Of course, doesn't end up coming through. A lot of talk back and forth about who bet this, did they bet it, etc. I've confirmed from multiple people at DraftKings this was a bet that did happen. How it got shared, that's a different question, but it was a bet that happened. And again, we keep seeing these large money line wagers. There's no such thing as free money. This was definitely the case for this one.
Well, there is. It's if you were DraftKings in that position.
Well, that is true.
But I tweeted this out after I saw Ben's tweet, and I thought, walk me through the process. What is the thought process of putting up over $1 million to win 11,000? Like, how in the world does that seem like a prudent thing to do? I know, Ben, like you said, there's no such thing as free money, and I'm sure they think 27-0, this thing is over. But, Amal, can you even fathom? Like, I know you would never make a wager like that because you're not stupid. But I guess some people are going to go, well, it didn't look stupid when they're up 27-0. That's why you make it. I just don't get the rationale for putting up over $1 million to win 11,000.
So let's look at it from all angles here. First of all, to be correct on that one bet based on your return, you got to be right 127 out of you can be wrong one time out of 127, right? You've got to get basically the math on it 126 out of 127. The other thing is when you look at it, people are thinking, okay, it's $11,000, pretty decent amount of money. You are putting a substantial amount of money at risk. However, it's the third greatest comeback in NFL history, right? Mm-hmm. So if you think about every game in the history of the National Football League that's had a 27-point lead, that's more than 127 games. The likelihood of it happening, I said this earlier, I didn't feel like that game was as out of hand. Like the Houston-Buffalo game, that one shocked me, right? It was 35-3 third quarter. You're like, the Oilers are moving on. But it was 27-7 at the break. And you're like, okay, Jacksonville, if they get a stop early on, you get a touchdown, it's a 14-point game. And then they when it was 30-14, they hit the big play for the touchdown. It's a 9-point game. Or I think it was 9 or 10, whatever it was.
Got it to 10, they missed it too. But I'm with you that that's why I don't know how we're trying to advise people out there, like what not to do. And Ben, I clearly that shows you that's an example of what not to do. But I understand Amal's point too, that it did take the third largest comeback in the history of pro football in the playoffs in order to lose that bet. I just don't understand the risk reward of over $1 million to get back only 11,000.
Yeah, I think in general, these bigger bets are examples of things you don't want to do in betting just at a much higher level amount of money, right? And so I think that's kind of instructive. I don't think the risk reward is necessarily there. I agree with Amal. If you look at it kind of from a probability perspective, you're probably in good shape. But also remember, this isn't Tom Brady and Bill Belichick in their prime in the playoffs. You're backing Brandon Staley, right? And Justin Herbert in his first playoff start. And they look great, but for a half.
Against a Super Bowl winning coach already, and Doug Peterson.
And a team that has some momentum, like a good team. It's just you want to pick who you're backing $1.4 million with. I want to be damn sure I have a good team that I'm putting that risk reward back.
Yeah, but the other argument might be, where are you making what equates to probably about 0.8% on your money in 90 minutes for $11,000, right? I mean, unless
and
you're
that's why people do it.
Yeah, it's exactly like unless you're a member of the Sinaloa cartel, you probably don't have that kind of ROI on your money.
No,
in that quick of a time frame. So Look, I understand the arguments against it, and everybody always is critical of it. The one thing, though, I do think sometimes, I find it interesting that it gets publicized. Now, obviously, they don't tell you who it is. Mm-hmm. But, I'm like, that person might be on suicide watch right now, literally. And, it's
right.
It's not a prudent play. I get the arguments against it, and I'm not trying to say or justify it in any way, shape, or form. But it just surprises me. I always find it interesting, and this is the couple things I have a problem in sports books. Number one, I've heard people, well, I don't have as much of a bankroll. I go, yeah, because you don't think a $20 bet is worth $100,000 down the line, because you just throw $20 away with a 9-team money line parlay, and you don't actually realize there's value in it. In betting, you can go from $100 to $10,000 in 4 days. You can do it in one day. It's not that hard. I'm not saying it's a common occurrence, but the point being is people don't treat money the same. That was the best advice I ever got. Is they go, I remember I was talking to a friend of mine. He was a huge bettor in this town, and he goes, "That's the difference between me and everybody else." He goes, "I value whether it's $100 or $100,000." And
she treats it the same way.
Absolutely. He goes, most people are just not serious enough on $100. And he goes, they don't realize they can take that money and build up the bankroll and actually do something with it if they're prudent and make good decisions with it. But they're like, oh, it's $100, so I'll just throw in a 9-team parlay. Instead of saying, you know what, my best play today is Georgetown plus 14. That's the only play I like on this board today, so that's all I'm going to play. And then I'll wait till tomorrow or Wednesday or whatever. Instead of going, yeah, you know what, I'm going to start taking, I'll take Hofstra against Towson, start taking all these other games. And if you're actually very serious about it, you have an opportunity to be successful with it. And I think too many times people are very cavalier or flippant with it.
It's great advice. Ben, very quickly, got about 90 seconds to go. Give me another one that you saw out there that really caught your attention this weekend.
Yeah, so this, again, I think is a great instrumental, right, in probably somebody thinking that either had inside information or leaning one way. This was at $880,000 at Caesars in Indiana on the Ravens plus 6.5.
Oh.
And the line just moved after they placed this wager. I want to say it was Wednesday or Thursday. Again, the only reason you're placing that wager is you think Lamar Jackson is playing, and we don't know that yet. And the line is going to fall, and it's going to be, 4.5, right? You get a couple points of line value, but man, oh man, not to mention, obviously, the sneak and the fumble and all that, and the Hail Mary that was almost caught. But just very basically, those are why we have key numbers. That's why you want to get them. You're on the wrong side of that one.
I hate to say that bettor was on the right side and just didn't cash the ticket. Got the worst of the number,
yep.
But again, thought maybe that Lamar would play and the number would plummet. Wow.
Yeah, but real quickly, you know why it was a bad bet? Not because it lost. Because if the line comes down to 6, it doesn't hurt you. But if you wait for it to come to 7, 7.5, potentially, it's a huge advantage. So it was just a bad bet based on time, score, and situation.
Ben, we appreciate it as always. Come on back. Hour number 2 of Big Bets here on VSiN.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.